I think the whole world has essentially been brought up not to be a girl. How do we bring up boys? What does it mean to be a boy? To be a boy really means not to be a girl. To be a man means not to be a girl. To be a woman means not to be a girl. To be strong means not to be a girl, and to be a leader means to not be a girl. I actually think that being a girl is so powerful that we've had to train everyone not to be that. That quote, accessed February 16, 2015, is from Eve Ensler from her TED Talk. So today I'll be talking about a rhetorical analysis of Eve Ensler's Embrace Your Inner Girl TED Talk. We'll be looking at a couple of different things today. We'll be looking at a summary of Embrace Your Inner Girl, as well as who Eve Ensler is. And then I'll be discussing the ethos and mythos behind Embrace Your Inner Girl. So according to Makers.com, accessed February 16, 2015, Ensler is a Tony Award-winning playwright, performer, and activist. She's the author of The Vagina Monologues, which has been published in 48 languages and performed in over 140 countries. She's much more than just a quote that you can find on the web, however. She is this world-renowned feminist icon. She's quite the philanthropist. She's quite an amazing woman, and I believe everyone will kind of get a sense of that today. So first, I think it's important to talk about Embrace Your Inner Girl and this TED Talk that she did. So Embrace Your Inner Girl really talks about this innate human characteristic that's kind of found within every one of us. Ensler calls it the girl cell. And while the biology majors might not think that there's a girl cell, Ensler kind of gives this great illusion to what it actually is. And she kind of discusses patriarchy and how it obliterates our feelings. As I opened the presentation up today with this quote of, the world doesn't want us to be girls. We tell boys not to cry because it's girly. We tell girls to be called women once they are 18 or 20 or whatever arbitrary age we decide that women are no longer girls. It's kind of fascinating. And really, Ensler discusses her life experiences throughout in this keynote. She talks extensively about her time spent in the rape jungles of Congo, how she has helped save so many women's lives, so many girls' lives. It's really, really deep, to say the least. I definitely would encourage everyone to view this entire presentation because today we won't be seeing any clips or anything like that, only kind of a general overview. So who is Eve Ensler? I guess that's important if you want to go further on into thinking, why should I watch this TED Talk? So Ensler is probably most known for her work with the Vagina Monologues. You might have heard these if you've been on a college campus. It's really wildly, it's catching on like wildfire actually. So the Vagina Monologues introduce a wildly divergent gathering of female voices, including a 6-year-old girl, a New Yorker, a vagina workshop participant, a woman who witnesses the birth of her granddaughter, a Bosnian survivor of rape, and a feminist happy to have found a man who liked to look at it. And that quote was accessed February 16th, 2015 from evensler.org. But she's also much more than the screenwriter or a playwright, depending on how you view the Vagina Monologues. She's an actor, a playwright, an activist, and obviously quite the feminist. And she's also the founder of V-Day. V-Day is a little lesser known that Ensler's behind it, but that shouldn't make it nonetheless important. So accessed February 16th, 2015, Christine Cooper, author of Worrying About Vaginas, The Vagina Monologues, describes what V-Day is. V-Day is an anti-violence organization with a declared mission of ending violence against women and girls once and for all, everywhere. So V-Day is really, really great. You'll see kind of these gatherings on campus, and you'll also see around the world V-Day safe houses. And I'll touch on those later, but keep that in the back of your mind because it's quite an important thing that V-Day does to help women around the world and girls. So an analysis of this TED Talk. So ethos, as we all know, is the image of the speaker. Do you believe what they're saying to be true? Do you hold them as a reputable character in your eyes? And I do hold Ensler as a reputable character. You can see through her role in feminism as well as her life experiences that what she's saying is to be true. You can't make up some of these stories, and once again, I really encourage you to watch that TED Talk because it will leave you speechless at some of the things she tells you. She gives you these stories that are impossible to imagine. And you know that what she's saying is actually true, and she engages your audience and keeps you captivated, and that takes a lot. But even more so, I think, is her role in mythos. So I chose to use effort and optimism, and still in Redding's definition of effort and optimism is action guided by reason and an unshakable optimism as to results become a moral grounding principle. No problem was too complicated, no obstacle too big for the determined individual, and of course using that optimistic effort. And I think looking through Ensler's kind of resume of experiences in her life, she has definitely ran over some obstacles that many would think would be too big, and she's been quite determined. And as I mentioned earlier, the V-Day safe houses, these are a really wonderful thing, and I would kind of like to touch on those a bit more. So according to vday.org, accessed February 18th, 2015, these homes are across the globe and in some of the most underserved areas. V-Day partners with local activists to transform the lives of girls and women at risk of violence through safe houses, community centers where survivors can develop their innate leadership, be safe, heal, and learn. And in her TED Talk, Ensler talks about a story in particular that involved a V-Day safe house. It was this young woman who was getting ready to go through FGM, which is female genital mutilation, which in America we're not super familiar with, but in other developing nations it's really quite an issue, and it's a terrible, terrible thing that happens to these young girls. So this girl told her father, she was like, this isn't happening, and she ran away. Lucky for her though, she found a woman kind of in a neighboring community that took her in. Well, this woman eventually got in contact with Ensler, and they worked to develop this V-Day safe house. This safe house has helped save thousands of women in this community from FGM, from early marriage, from being beaten and abused. It's helped so many women, all because of, obviously, Ensler here, but also this woman, this community activist that's helping save all these women. Of course, when Ensler asked, what can I do to help you? She simply said, give me a Jeep and I can get there much faster and save many more girls. So she's keeping that morale quite high. And finally, I think it's important to talk about the financial aspect of the vagina monologues and how those have helped Ensler create and make the world a little bit better of a place, because that is obviously included in the mythos factor as well. So according to Laura Flanders, author for The Nation, in an article accessed February 18th, 2015, the Vagina Monologues has raised more than $90 million for grassroots anti-violence projects, mostly from non-professional performances around Valentine's Day or V-Day organization. So she has established these V-Day safe houses, but she's also raised money, and I'm sure she's put her own money into it. So, you know, personal contributions as well as business contributions and being out on the front lines sometimes. So I could go on all day about Eve Ensler, but I'll close it with a quote by Eve. Find freedom, aliveness, and power not from what contains, locates, or protects us, but from what dissolves, reveals, and expands us.